how do you make sure if you're going to start putting stuff out there as a business owner, right? How do I know what resonates? Is there a good way to figure out, or do I just tell my story and hope it resonates?
Focus group practice, focus group, tell it to people who don't have the issues, tell it to people who do have the issues that you're talking about. Just, hey, I want to bounce the idea off you. I'm thinking about starting a marketing company. What would be your pain points that you would want? This is the idea I have. Do you think that this is something that could help you? And sometimes in doing that, you start interviewing the other people and start learning more about them. And they start learning about themselves and not knowing the pain points that they had. And then you're like, I could solve that with this, and that will yield you this. And that's when then you could take all that feedback in and make your own pitch, because now, your small quote unquote focus group, it at least resonates with them and not just in your head, right? So at least you have a little bit of perspective, right? Versus just what's in your head.
So for me,
that'd be my point.
I would say that let's think about the fundamentals of a business, right? When you're running a business, number one, you identify a problem, then you validate the problem, then you solve the problem. So the second part, where you're validating that it's a real problem, is where you find out who your target audience is and to see if it's actually a real problem. Because there's a lot of folks, doesn't matter how perfect your storytelling is.
Yes.
If there is no problem to be solved, there's nothing you can do. It's the reason why, they say, I think the fastest business to go out of business is a restaurant.
Yeah.
Because the restaurant that you want to start, maybe you and your family really, really like that type of food, but it doesn't mean everybody else want to eat that food.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And you can have a great story background and all that stuff.
The fundamental of a business is that when you've been able to identify a problem, you need to be able to validate that problem. That's why we talk about the focus group. Another way you can do it is you can put out a survey. You can do it yourself, or there are companies that will do it for you and say, hey, I got all these questions. Let's get an answer. And if the answer are leaning more to a real problem, then let's try and figure out a solution, some type of innovation to be able to solve that problem. I think that's one of the things that you can do to essentially, make sure that you have the right storytelling.